So I found a reason to come back up to the Yukon for a few days, and it's completely unrelated to photography. However, since I've got the opportunity to be here for a few days without any major commitments, guess what I've decided to do? Photography and hiking. Now, while I'd argue that the Yukon is probably one of the prettiest places in the country, it's also really hard to get to some of those really interesting locations. It often takes a lot of hiking, a lot of camping, a lot of hours to get to places. And unfortunately, I just don't have that kind of time on this trip. It's not going to work out for me. So I've rented a car, grabbed some snacks, packed myself up, and I'm heading out towards Kluane and just hoping for the best. So with any luck, I'll have some luck, and there'll be something to photograph when I get there. So fingers crossed that this plays out in my favor this time. Now, if you watched my last video from Baffin Island, you'll likely know that luck was not on my side for that trip. And I had a sneaking suspicion that my bad luck would keep following me around. Bad luck was living in my head rent-free for this trip. So much so that I've decided to count how many times I refer to crossing my fingers throughout the video. But despite my fear of bad luck, I was able to put together 72 hours in Kluane, and I was going to do my absolute best to make the most of it, even if I came home without any images at all. I probably shouldn't have tried to carry all my stuff in at once. That was really awkward. So I've got a place to sleep for the next few days and a home base to work from. So with any luck, this will do me well. Never stayed here before, but yeah, it's fine. This will work perfectly for my needs. I'm perfectly happy with that. With only 72 hours in the park, I didn't have a lot of time to waste. After getting my motel room, I found myself driving north on the Alaska Highway with a special spot in mind. I'd been here before, and I knew that with the right conditions, a little wind could make some magic. Well, I finally made my first attempt at an image since I've got here. And, you know, driving through the park, I found that, you know, there's quite a lot of color in some of the wildflowers around the sides of the roads, and some of this really pretty plants kind of everywhere. And so as I continued to drive, though, I kind of noticed that there's just an incredible amount of dust coming out of this valley with the Kaskawelsh Glacier in it, the Slims Valley. And that's actually making for some interesting scenes in a couple of different areas with plumes of dust. It was, you know, it was even visible on the drive in. You couldn't have missed it. So I found a little area here which has some really neat little plants, and trying to place that against this sun just setting behind the mountain with these plumes of dust just blowing out from underneath it. Really interesting scene. I hope it works. It's pretty cool, but yeah, the light is just about gone now, so I think I've got what I've got, but my fingers are crossed. We'll see. This ended up being one of the most frustrating to edit images I've ever taken because of those moving plants. But in the end, I was happy to finally showcase some of Kluane's unique features in a single scene. So I tried going to the source of the sand, and surprise, surprise, it was very sandy. I don't think I'm comfortable taking my camera out in that kind of blowing sand. Oh, there's a lot of interesting little details that are definitely very photogenic. Just maybe not worth sacrificing the health of a lens for. Oh well, let's move on. I drove for what felt like hours without finding anything that caught my eye, until I got back to the motel when the moon and a nearly midnight sunset stole the show. So I've been to this spot a number of times in the past, and I've always felt that it's really pretty, but I've never been able to make an image of it that I really like. So I decided to come here earlier in the day and try to see if I can't do a bit of scouting, find a spot that makes some sense to me and that works for the scene. I haven't found that yet, but I did find a nice little spot to relax. Not bad, and not a bad view either. I'll take it. So most of the times that I've tried to take photos of this mountain and this lake, I've often tried to do it from the other shore, where you get a pretty clear, unobstructed view of the mountain, and there's often interesting driftwood. And the problem though is that the image just never really seems to flow all that well because you've got a bank of trees that are right on your left and it's kind of in the way. So this time I thought I would try something a little bit different and see if I could utilize some of all these different beautiful aspen trees that are all around the area and go along the other shore, where hopefully we can look through the trees up to the mountain and the water. And I have to say it, but I found one that's very, very close to being an interesting composition, but I just don't know if I can make it work. It's really, really cool with this wonderful sweeping dead tree, as well as a little bit of peripheral aspen through it, with log kind of reaching out towards the mountain over this turquoise blue lake. But yeah, the aspen is just right in the middle of the scene. So I don't know if I can make it work, but maybe I'll try and work the scene, or maybe I'll have to try and find another spot. Oh, frustrating, because this is quite close to what I was hoping for. But yeah, I guess I'll just have to keep trying. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I tried to make this composition work, but I don't think it's gonna work for me. I've tried to do a focus stack of it, and it's just the placement of that one tree is just not quite right, and it's just so precarious getting a tripod in here, and the only lens I have that's wide enough is manual focus, so it's just really, really unstable on the tripod. I don't know that it's gonna work. And the conditions, I mean, it's taken so long to get this set up that the conditions have completely evaporated, and now it's just cloudy and kind of yucky. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a miss, but maybe we'll keep this in mind just in case another opportunity for light comes when I know exactly where to go and exactly what this is gonna look like. But I'll kick around and keep looking for a little while and see how the weather continues to change for this afternoon, and well, we'll see if something pans out for me. Oh well. Yeah, I saw this spot walking by a little bit earlier and thought it might be a good option because there's these lovely aspen trees with an opening that looks towards the mountain, and what I think are wild roses all below it, which could make for a really, really pretty scene. But unfortunately it's just a little bit too obstructed to see the mountain through it. So I don't know that this one's gonna work either, unfortunately. Yeah, struggling this afternoon or morning, whatever it is. I don't know, I'm sleep deprived, it's fine. Yeah, too bad. So this is kind of driving me a little nuts. I've come back to a little trail I remember from 2017, I think, which has this really lovely aspen forest. I'm thinking that given all the wildflowers we have around, I might find some really lovely forest scenes with just wildflowers, and there are just carpets of flowers around here. But yeah, I am struggling to make something work, unfortunately, and it's going to drive me crazy. So I'm sure I'm going to burn a whole pile of time trying to figure something out here, but yeah, I'm not feeling overly optimistic that it's going to work. Almost everything I tried on my first full day in Kluane didn't work out for me. After failing to get an image near Kathleen Lake and the aspen forest, I decided to try a hike I've never tried before. But the farther I hiked, the worse the weather became. After passing by some fresh bear scat and seeing the rain pick up, it became clear that today was not going to be my day. I decided to call it quits and hope for my luck to change tomorrow. So it's the beginning of my second full day in Kluane here, and the weather forecast this morning didn't look very good either. So I was a little bit disenfranchised with my opportunities. But with that said, when you look out at the window, there's so many interesting clouds, and so there is a lot of character in the sky. So there might be some opportunities for images. So I decided to go for a drive anyway and try the place that I was photographing yesterday to see if I could finally make it work. But then you started seeing these wind-swept clouds, some of this really pretty cloud through the drive, and so I decided to keep going to see if I could make a composition of that work and find something to go with it. So I ended up at the Rock Glacier, and the Rock Glacier is it's not a hard hike at all. It's really quite easy, but it gives you a nice view towards where the clouds were. So I decided to move up it pretty quickly, and wouldn't you know it, the nice clouds are now gone. So it's too bad. But the glacier itself, the Rock Glacier itself, is kind of interesting. And gotten to the toe of it now, and you can see little bits of rock coming off of it, but there's not really a whole lot up here. There's some interesting scraggly trees that maybe I might be able to do something with, but yeah, I don't know. I'll probably just pack it in and head back to where I was gonna go. And yeah, with any luck, the weather gets on my side and I get something out of these few days here. Disappointing so far, but it seems to be on brand lately. Oh well. Well, the sun came out for a minute now. I guess it's just giving me a little bit of hope. Fingers crossed that keeps up. Come on. So after trying to photograph this spot yesterday and having the weather change on me, I was pretty disappointed with how things kind of turned out. And I kind of did like the composition, or at least I feel like it's probably the best composition I've found since I've got here. So I thought I would come back and give it another go. It's a little less windy than it was yesterday, as the wind picks up, but there is some direct light on the foreground and on the lake. One of the challenges yesterday was by the time I was all set up, there was no really direct light on the lake, which meant that you couldn't really see that turquoisey blue color. So with a little bit of patchy cloud today and the sun peeking through periodically, I thought that this might work a little bit better to make the composition a little bit more interesting. But I'll show you what I'm doing. So the scene I'm looking at is looking up towards King's Throne, over top of this beautiful turquoise blue water, and right through this sort of dead wood, this log here. And the wood actually creates this nice frame around this single tree, which is really interesting. I'll show you what the composition looks like on the back of the camera. You can get a feel for what I'm trying to do. Brighten that up a little bit. So hopefully you can see that, but my intent is to try and get most of the log flowing towards that mountain in the background. And I really like this sort of like flow inward from all the corners. This tree is a little bit too central for me, but I don't know, I might be able to make peace with that in the end. But I love the color of the turquoise water through Kathleen Lake here. And the other interesting thing, you probably won't be able to see it in the image, unfortunately, but we can actually see, if we zoom in, down here, there's actually a number of little wild roses all around the base of this tree, which is really neat. I'm hopeful they're visible, but I think they're going to be too small in the frame. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. And if it works, I will show it to you. I can't express how nice it was to feel like I finally picked up an image here. This is probably my favorite image of this lake, and in hindsight, it was a sign that my luck was starting to change for the better. So I thought I would come back to the spot where this dust has been common, and I'm here just crouching by the car so that there isn't so much wind noise in the video. But yeah, I'm finding a little bit more success trying to get some images of that dust that comes out of the valley, and it's pretty cool. Like that, the dust seems to blow over right across this big what was an island at one point, I assume, and it's got a lot of these spruce trees throughout it, and the dust just blows right through them. It almost looks like fog rolling through, but except yellow, I guess. So it's pretty interesting to see. I've gotten the long lens out and I'm shielding it behind the car to try and make it function, but to try and give it a little bit more stability in the photo, because it is shaking all over the place. But it's really, really interesting when you see the dust blowing through all of these trees and creating just depth and layers. It's too bad I couldn't get a scene with that, with some of the incredible wind-shorn clouds, wind-blown clouds, whatever. But hey, looks pretty cool. So I feel like this is probably cheating, but I've come back to the area with these great sand dunes that just get a ton of wind through the area here, and it's very difficult to shoot just because it's so windy. Definitely not an option to take your camera out, but the light is just kissing these dunes really, really well, and I am trying to shoot right through the window of the car parked on the side of the road to make it work, and yeah, that's keeping the dust out of my lens, and it's really, really neat. So a lot of interesting movement in this little tiny spot within the dune. If it worked out, I'll show you a photo of it. As the weather transitioned from cloud to sunshine, I found myself driving in search of new subjects, until this little guy found me. Full disclosure, I shot this from inside of my car, parked a safe distance from the bear on the shoulder of the road. This little guy seemed perfectly content munching on plants while I snapped away. While the weather wasn't great for landscape photography in this instance, little did I know that would change, and soon. This sunset was a special one, and it came out of nowhere. To say I was excited to see some glorious light would be an understatement. The clouds continued to roll over Kluane's front range, creating opportunities for some stunning mountain profiles. Altogether, my second full day in Kluane was a huge step forward compared to the day prior. And with one more morning left in the park, my time was running out. But I still had one more trick up my sleeve. So yesterday was not actually a bad day. I was able to go out and find a number of different scenes which were of interest, and so it kind of turned things around a little bit compared to the first day. So I'm feeling a little bit more positive about how the few days I've had here have gone. However, with that said, there is one more opportunity that I might be able to take advantage of today before I have to leave. And it's not for sure yet, but I am crossing my fingers like crazy. Because if this works, this is often we'll call it a photography cheat code. And with any luck, it actually plays out and I get to take advantage of it. So, I hope. While Kluane's front country is pretty, very few places in Canada compare to its backcountry. And with this little time, there was only one real option to get a good taste for it. Only moments after setting out, the landscape takes a completely different shape, and Kluane's rivers start to show their incredible character. While Kluane's rivers are beautiful in their own right, it's the glaciers that capture most imagination for this park. I have to admit, Kluane's glaciers had me so focused on capturing their beauty that I didn't take a ton of video. With that said, even within the many photos I took, you can really feel the drama oozing out of this remote part of Canada. Ugh. So many of the trips I do are dependent on things outside of my control. My last trip was cancelled on day 2 because of the weather, and even on this trip, I nearly couldn't get into the air because of high wind. It's no wonder I sometimes become fixated on luck during these trips, and that can have a powerful influence on my mindset and my creativity. But let me tell you, it can be absolutely liberating to feel like you've shaken a string of bad luck. I didn't know it when this trip ended, but this would mark a significant and positive change in luck leading into another major trip. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and if you're enjoying these images and want to see them larger, feel free to check them out on my website. Take care, and I'll see you soon.